They always saw me as the quiet shadow, the one who didn't quite fit. Tonight, that shadow eclipsed their brightest star. For 15 years, I'd kept my real life a secret from my family. My brother Kevin was the golden child, the one destined for success in their eyes. I was just Hazel, the one who spent too much time on her laptop, working at a tiny little something. That's how they always described my job. They thought I was barely making ends meet, maybe doing freelance odd jobs or managing social media for a local flower shop. It hurt, but I let them believe it. It was easier than facing their patronizing smiles or hearing them explain, again, how I needed to be realistic and get a proper career like Kevin. Their dismissal became a kind of shield, allowing me to build my world in private. Tonight was Kevin's big party. His company, Sterling Financial, a name that always sounded far grander than the place actually was, had promoted him to regional manager. My parents, bless their hearts, rented a ridiculously opulent penthouse suite overlooking the glimmering Chicago skyline just to celebrate this milestone. Crystal chandeliers, servers circulating with trays of champagne I knew cost more than my weekly grocery bill, and a guest list full of Kevin's colleagues and Brittany's family. Brittany being his fiancée, whose father conveniently owned a significant chunk of Sterling Financial. I smoothed down the simple dark green dress I'd chosen. Nothing fancy, nothing that would draw attention. Just blending in was the goal. Hazel, there you are. Mom's voice, a little too loud, cut through the polite chatter. Her eyes scanned me, lingered on my dress, and then shifted quickly away. Out for the traditional path, I suppose. But there's value in simpler work, too. Simpler work. I took a slow sip of champagne, remembering the all-nighters, the sheer panic of launch day, the relentless pressure of scaling a global platform. Simple. Then Kevin arrived, Brittany on his arm. He looked every bit the conquering hero in his tailored suit, his chest puffed out slightly. Brittany was dripping in diamonds, her smile practiced and sweet. Hazel, still hiding in corners? Kevin's laugh was loud, designed to carry. Some things never change. Brittany, this is my sister, Hazel. She does something with computers. Brittany gave me a condescending smile. Oh, yes, Kevin mentioned. It's very artistic, isn't it? So nice you have a creative outlet. Creative outlet. My creative outlet was Pixel Pulse, the social platform I'd built from scratch that now had over 50 million active users. My creative outlet had just closed a Series C funding round that put its valuation north of $500 million. I remembered when I first started, back in my tiny apartment, working 18 hours a day. I needed a new server, just a few $1,000s. I called Dad, hoping for a small loan. He told me to stop playing around and get a stable job. Kevin, meanwhile, got a brand new car for his first internship. When Mom needed that unexpected surgery, I quietly paid the $60,000 deductible. I told them her insurance must have covered it fully. At the same time, they were proudly telling everyone about the $20,000 they gave Kevin for networking events. They expected me to manage the small family rental property, collect rent, deal with repairs, all for free, because my flexible schedule meant I had plenty of time. It helps the family, Hazel, Mom had said, as if my time and effort were worthless. Kevin was still talking. Seriously, Hazel, you should think about getting into something stable. Maybe I could ask around at Sterling. See if there's an admin job or something. It's not glamorous, but it's a foot in the door. You need to start building a real future, Brittany added. Yes, Hazel. Kevin works so hard. He's moving up so fast. It's important to have direction. She giggled again, that tinkling sound that always grated on my nerves. Not everyone is cut out for the fast track, I suppose. I felt the familiar sting, the tightening in my chest, the urge to scream the truth, to shatter this carefully constructed illusion they lived in. but years of practice kept my expression neutral. "I appreciate the offer, Kevin," I said quietly. "But I think I'm doing okay with my computer thing." "Okay is relative, Hazel," Dad chimed in, joining the circle. "Okay isn't Sterling Financial, at 30. "Okay isn't a future with a wonderful girl like Brittany whose family runs the place." He beamed at Kevin. "That's more than just okay. That's smart." Just as Kevin was about to launch into a toast about his bright future, the hum of conversation died down. The elevator doors, which rarely open this late, slid apart. A collective gasp went through the room. Stepping out was Mark Jenkins. The Mark Jenkins, the legendary tech investor, known for discovering and funding the biggest names in the industry. He was instantly recognizable from magazine covers and news segments: sharp suit, piercing gaze, an aura of immense power. He was the last person anyone expected to see at a Sterling Financial regional manager party. Kevin lowered his champagne glass slowly, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Mr. Jenkins?" Mom looked utterly bewildered. "Who is that?" Mark Jenkins scanned the crowd, his eyes moving past the senior executives from Sterling, past Brittany's important-looking father, and landed squarely on me. His face, usually serious in photos, broke into a genuine smile. He started walking, directly towards me, ignoring the stunned faces in his path. "Hazel, what a genuine surprise," he exclaimed, reaching me and shaking my hand warmly. "I was just about to call you tomorrow. Didn't expect to run into you at this event." My hand trembled slightly in his firm grip. "Mark, good to see you too." Kevin finally found his voice. "Mr. Jenkins, you know my sister, Hazel?" His voice was high-pitched, disbelieving. Mark Jenkins turned to Kevin, a slight frown of confusion initially, then recognition. "Your sister?" "Ah, yes, Hazel Mitchell. Of course, I know Hazel. We've been working closely together." He looked back at me, then addressed the rapidly gathering crowd. "Hazel and her team are $500 million. Dad's face crumpled, going from red with pride to ashen. Mom made a strange little sound, like a choked sob. Kevin just stared, his mouth slightly open, his eyes darting between me and Mark Jenkins as if trying to reconcile two impossible images. Brittany's champagne flute slipped from her nerveless fingers, hitting the marble floor and shattering into 1,000 pieces, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "Her company?" Dad finally managed, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Pixel Pulse? But you said you worked for a tiny firm?" "That's what you chose to hear, Dad," I said, my voice clear and steady, amplified by the stunned silence. "I said I was starting my own thing. I never specified how tiny it was." I looked at Kevin, his carefully constructed world imploding before my eyes. "And my computer thing isn't a hobby. It's a global tech company." Chaos erupted. Whispers turned into exclamations. People started pointing. Mom rushed forward, her face a mask of shock and forced enthusiasm. "Hazel, darling, my goodness, Pixel Pulse, why on earth didn't you tell us?" "Tell you what, Mom?" I asked, turning to face her fully. "That the hours I spent building something real were worth more than Kevin's golf outings? That the money I made could bail us out of debt you didn't even know I covered? You were too busy celebrating every minor step Kevin took to notice the giant leap I made." Dad tried to regain control. "Now, Hazel, this is quite a revelation, a shock. But we're family. Surely we can discuss this calmly. Perhaps Sterling could explore partnership opportunities with Pixel Pulse?" He looked desperately at Brittany's father, who simply looked stunned. "Partnership?" I raised an eyebrow. "With a company whose technology is decades behind, Dad? Pixel Pulse is built on innovation. Sterling is not." Kevin stumbled closer, his eyes panicked. But But my job, my future, this changes everything. It changes your perception, Kevin. I corrected him. My future was never tied to Sterling Financial. Yours seems to be built entirely on who your fiancé's father is. I built mine on code and sheer grit. Mark Jenkins stepped slightly back, observing the family implosion with detached interest. He looked like a scientist watching a fascinating, volatile experiment. Mom wrung her hands. But all those times you said you couldn't contribute much to family things, that loan for Kevin's MBA. Oh, you mean the $50,000 from my savings you insisted Kevin needed more than I did? I asked, my voice flat. The one you never paid back? Or the medical bills I covered? Or the time I paid off Aunt Carol's mortgage arrears you all ignored? The color drained from their faces as I listed the financial burdens I'd carried in secret, while they treated me like a dependent. Brittany finally found her voice, shrill with panic. Kevin, you knew about this? About her company? Of course not, Kevin snapped, then turned to me, his voice pleading. Hazel, please, you have to understand. We thought you were struggling. We were trying to help. Help? I echoed, the word feeling like a foreign concept in their mouths. Help was telling me to get a real job instead of supporting my dream. Help was prioritizing Kevin's every whim over my fundamental needs. Help was letting me manage the rental property for free because I had nothing better to do. Years of swallowed hurt came flooding out, calm but devastating. You didn't help. You dismissed. You minimized. You treated me like a failure so you could feel better about yourselves and Kevin's perceived success. Dad squared his shoulders, trying one last tactic. Hazel, let's be reasonable. This is a fantastic development. We can work together. The Mitchell family can be a powerhouse. The Mitchell family, as you defined it, only had room for one success story, I said, shaking my head. And it wasn't mine. I looked around the room, the faces staring back, the stunned silence now replaced by a low buzz of gossip and speculation. Kevin stood there, defeated, his posture slumping. Mom looked like she might cry. Dad was red-faced, furious, and utterly powerless. This party, I said, addressing everyone now, my voice clear and strong, was meant to celebrate a certain kind of success. My family defined that success very narrowly. Tonight I'm showing them how wrong they were. I turned back to Mark Jenkins. Mark, shall we step outside for a moment? I think I need some air. And perhaps we could discuss that potential acquisition we talked about, the one for that outdated financial firm. I let the sentence hang, glancing pointedly at Kevin. And Dad. Their eyes widened in fresh horror. Hazel, no! Kevin gasped. You wouldn't! Dad sputtered. Business is business, I said, using Brittany's earlier phrase, and felt a grim satisfaction. Just like family, apparently. I walked towards the elevator with Mark Jenkins, leaving my family frozen amidst the shattered glass and the wreckage of their assumptions. The simple green dress felt like armor. For years they had seen me as small, insignificant, a side note to Kevin's grand narrative. Tonight, they saw the full picture. The quiet sister wasn't a failure. She was a force they had never bothered to understand, and now that force was reshaping their reality. This wasn't the end. It was a new, unexpected beginning. One where the quiet shadow finally stepped into the blinding light.